Hello, it's JJ Humphrey, and I am on OCP today. Again, I'm just going to bring you the updates, guys. We've seen our good friend Bobby Cleveland. He's taking a break right now. Bob needed a break, and so I'm just coming on here each week. I don't want to stop this because I think it's critical that the employees of the Department of Corrections and that the inmate families get to hear what is going on in these prisons, what is going on in the Department of Corrections. And I think that it's important that we work together. That's why OCP is such a great organization and why we need OCP, because it gives you, the employees, the voice. Guys, if the employees are working right and they're being trained and they're professional and they have enough employees to do the job, guess what? That means your loved ones, that means the inmates that are there in those prisons are going to be more safe, and all of these phones and all of these drugs and all of the violence can be, stopped if we have enough help and if we have the people at the administration who know how to do their job. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people right now. Director Harpe has fired all of the experience. Director Harpe has run off. If you have your 20 years, you're looking, hey, as soon as I get that 20, I'm out of here. So what's happened? And people who have 10 and 12s, they're not even waiting around. Some of them are just leaving, and he's going after all those people who seem to have experience anyways. So what you see is all of your experience gone. You're seeing a group of people there that just really doesn't have the knowledge or the authority or the ability to argue back with, and they do whatever they're told. And we have seen the Department of Corrections go to a place where I've never thought that I would ever see them be at. I never dreamed. I've talked to a lot of people that worked with me during the time period that I've worked, and we had issues, and there were times it looked really good. There was times it looked pretty bad. But I never in my life dreamed that it could get as bad as we're way beyond anywhere where I thought that you could do this terrible of a job. And so this director gets just a big fat F. So again, this week, we're going to start talking about all the deaths. Now, here's the problem. I'm getting reported a lot of deaths, and I'm getting reported a lot of assault on officers and all of these problems. But the problem is we can't substantiate. Used to, I'd get a call and I'd go on and start calling and saying, hey, I need to substantiate this. Now, I showed you a couple of weeks ago where I asked for an investigation on 8 murders, and I didn't get the OIG investigation. Anybody that's worked in the department knows the difference between an OIG investigation and an incident report. And I didn't even get the incident report. I got a redacted copy of each one of those incidents. You can't tell heads or tails. You know, the Department of Corrections thinks they're the CIA, and they come out, well, we no longer provide this. Well, who made that decision? So y'all decide we can violate Open Records Act because we say so. So it's not a violation of Open Records Act if the director comes in and goes, that form no longer applies to open records. I'm the director. I am the know all, see all, and I'm going to declare for the state of Oklahoma that's off limits. So you legislators, you can't have anything because that's off limits. And guess what? In the public, I filed a lawsuit on them for this very reason. And guess what, guys? If you're paying attention, I think Frontier is firing a lawsuit on them for the same thing. So it's not only that they keep me from getting records, they keep the newspaper from getting records, they keep the public from getting records. And what is that? That's lack of transparency. When you see a lack of transparency, it generally is a good indicator they're doing something really, really wrong. Okay. Otherwise, if I have nothing to hide, if I have nothing that I'm ashamed of, I follow the law. I come out and say, hey, I'd be proud to show you this. I have been investigated numerous times. I can tell you the first time I got investigated, it made me a little mad. How dare you? You know, it's a pride issue. How dare you talk about me? How dare you look at me? The second time, I was still a little upset. Third time, I'm just kind of like, hey, knock yourself out. fourth, fifth time, and up to the 60-something time, which was all DOC after me. And by the way, they all got fired, including the politicians. Some of the politicians went to jail out of that whole deal. Gene Stipe, the state auditor, all of them, a guy named McMahon, went to jail in related issues over what I'm talking about. Anyways, and some people that I work for there in the department got fired. So nobody wrote an article, JJ's justified, but JJ was justified in all that. And I say all that just to show you the corruption that I've had to deal with pretty much most of my life, my adult life and my employment life. I've dealt with this kind of corruption over and over. And again, that's why I jokingly call them the Department of Corruption, is because I've seen this corruption, but I've never seen it to the level that it is right now. And so again, when we talk about these deaths, and I'm saying all that to tell you why I can't confirm these deaths. When I ask them, I get redacted like they're the CIA and they're going to redact everything. You can't confirm anything. You can't believe. I will tell you this. I believe not one word. And they used to have a person who come over. I thought that person had more integrity. Guess what? They don't. They will lie just like the rest of them will lie. And they have proven that they will walk in to the legislators and they will lie on behalf. And I get it. Their bosses tell them what to go do. But I don't lie even for the boss. I say I can't do that because that's not true. Or if I walk in there, I'm going to say, hey, my boss wanted me to tell you this. And if I'm asked, well, is that true? Well, that's what my boss says. That's what my boss wants to tell you. Okay, there's ways to do that without becoming a liar yourself and without promoting lies. And so they failed to do that. That makes them just as bad as the rest of them. And so again, here's where we're at. You can't believe a word they say. So when I'm looking at right this week, we've got in a matter of about 10 days, since May 28th, May 29th, we have about 4 deaths that we know have been reported. Again, we have not confirmed those deaths. I'm pretty certain at least 3 of them seem likely to be true. One of them I'm not sure on. Again, that was a death reported at Lexington. I've got different reports. I've got a couple of guys called over and said, no, it didn't happen. I got other people going, absolutely, it did. It's possible that there was 2 deaths at Harp, and there may be a confusion on that. But again, I've got roughly 4 deaths in 10 days. And that's pretty astronomical. I mean, you're back to having a death almost every other day, every 2.5, 2 1/3 day, you're having deaths, okay, on that average. That's terrible. That is terrible averages. And guys, I've given you the number there in Allen Gamble, how they bragged that they've dropped that 14%. They went out in the article and said, oh, we're going to transition Lawton facility over like we transitioned the Allen Gamble prison. Well, let's not hope. I mean, let's hope not. Let's pray. No, don't do that. Whatever you do, don't do it like you did Allen Gamble. That was a nightmare and still is a nightmare. And yet you're saying, oh, Allen Gamble's a success. What fool would even say that Allen Gamble is a success? And the fact that they would go out and write that shows just how either little they know, they can't be that stupid. They cannot be that stupid and not know what is going on at Allen Gamble. I just told you recently that I had found out over a little period of time there are 29 deaths. There's been bukus of deaths since then. Okay, 29 deaths in a prison that has 1,700. Let's say there's 6. They're very close to 1,700 based on some numbers I saw this morning. And so if there's 1,700 by national average, that means 3 a year ought to die. Okay, if you looked at the numbers that I was looking at, I don't think they'll be anywhere close to 2 years, but I'm going to give them 2 years, 29 deaths. So if we said 3 a year is average, and really that's a little above average. It's like for 1,700, it would be roughly, it'd be 2.8. It'd be a little less than 2.8, as a matter of fact. And so again, you'd be looking at 5.4 deaths, but let's just call it 6 deaths. Let's just call it 6 deaths in a 2-year period at 1,700 on national average. They had 29. 6 ought to be the max. You have 29, and then they come out and say, "Oh, we're a great success. We dropped it by 14%. Well, hell, if y'all dropped it by 14%, how many people were dying? Because if you say they dropped it by 14%, 10% of 29 would be 2.9. That'd be another 3 people died. Half that, say half of 3, 1. So you're talking about 4 to 5 people added on that if they declared that. That's insane. So if dropping down 14 and you still have 29, gobs 6 times what the national average is, or 5 times what the national average is. Guess what? And you're going to go out and brag like that's something awesome. You've done some great job, and we hope we transition. We hope only. Now, here's what's funny. That's 2,300. If you look at those numbers, hey, you're talking 35, 40 people die. We only have 40 people die. We're doing great. We're doing great. What crackhead says stuff like that? The fact that DOC goes out and puts these numbers that are so easily argued with. If this is what's funny, people make me out to be such a troublemaker. And DOC just, well, JJ hates us, and JJ's just, well, you know what? It ain't got nothing to do with what I feel about you. I have zero respect for you. I'll tell you the truth straight up. I tell you to your face, I don't care. You're disgusting. You are just beyond believable on lying, on costing people their lives, on allowing people to be raped, on running great employees off and ruining their lives, on doing investigations and setting up on your officers when you have a massive shortage and you're stupid and go out there. Oh, we're going to find a guy with a pocket knife this big, got 1,000 knives on the yard. We're ignorantly not going to clean up the yard. Let's go after the employees. Oh, that's a great plan, Director. That's a great plan. Get a little more shorthanded, because guess what? You're working these people 24/7. Now, Bobby Cleveland passed a bill that said you can't work back-to-back 16 hours, I think, and you'd have to go back. I could get you a statute. Bobby Cleveland passed that. So, guys, it's illegal for them to force you to work like 12 hours, 5 days a week. You can do it for a certain period, and then they've got to let you off. But 16, I think, back to back is illegal. I could get a hold of Bob. He could tell me exactly on that what it is. But again, guys, this is the case where we're at. We're shorthanded. I mean, massively shorthanded. And what's these people do? They go out and start targeting you. They're going out and going after you. What? Now, if you're bringing in drugs, Director, I'm all for stopping drugs get in. I'm all for cell phones being brought in. Let's stop that. I have no problem setting up and screening the employees and making sure, but making it an issue when you carried a gun into OSP, you're the last person I'd allow that kind of crap to go on. If you find a knife, give it back to them. Tell them to take it out their vehicle. Tell them we're going to write you up. We're going to give you a letter of reprimand. And that's called progressive discipline. That's what you're supposed to. No, you crackheads, y'all going to try to file charges on people over a little pocket knife. And if a DA files that, wow, that really is wow. If a DA ain't got nothing better to do but to file that, then the DA ought to be gone as well. That's incredible. That's incredible. It's beyond the pale of what's going on right here. But we're seeing all of these deaths, and we're seeing, what is happening? What is happening with the director that they are covering all of this up? And guys, it looks like a cover up. I asked about these 8 desks. Guess what? They're going to black out everything. When you see that, that's a pretty good indicator. They got something to hide. They're covering something up. And I'm going to be on it. I'm going to be looking at what's going on. I know they don't want these numbers getting out. I know they don't want, and it's their own numbers. Go look at. I mean, we can go look at their numbers, and it's going to show the problems. The big deal that I talked about last week, that I continue to talk about, is going to be the assaults on staff. Guys, if you get assaulted, you need to let us know. We're trying to confirm all this. We're trying to look into all of this. It's very difficult to keep up because they have shut down illegally, by the way, I will say, shut down all the public information. They are a public agency. They do not have a right. The stuff that they are saying no longer is public, have been public since the creation of time. It was public when Noah stepped off the ark, okay? It was public, all right? Now, it's been public for all that time, and now guess what? Here comes Director Harpe. Oh, no, it's not public. We're going to keep, if somebody kills somebody, now you can kill somebody out here in the community, and guess what? It's all over the paper, all the information right there. But in Director Harpe's world, in Harpe world, guess what? No, even though those inmates, it's public information, they're in there. You can go to offender lookup. It's right there. You can go to all kinds of information. Look at their discharge date. Look at their date of birth. Look at how many crimes they committed. Look at when they're going to get off on which crime and how they've already, all of that information is right there. But yet he's saying, nope, confidential. Can't tell you who's involved in all of this. Can't tell you that we had a murder investigation and this guy's the person who murdered them. Nope, no, all that's confidential. And even saying that to the legislator, it's just beyond the pale. It's beyond anything that anybody would have ever believed that would happen. And so, guys, what we've got to do is we've got to watch this. Assaults on officers are probably the biggest indicator that some bad juju's going to happen. And so let me know if you have a serious assault. Let me know what they did about it, whether they filed charges, didn't file charges, all of these kind of things. If you got information on inmates' deaths that are being covered up, on inmate rapes that are being covered up, on extortion being covered up, phones, drugs, that kind of stuff, let us know, because it really appears, I'm just in shock how that they can get rid of. So I talked to an employee today that said, hey, they had an employee sitting right up there on the front at Allen Gamble, caught more dope than anybody else. Well, guess what? They got rid of that person. So why? So more dope can come in? I don't know. And again, they fire people and now they're short-handed. What is going on with them? I can't figure it out. Guys, if you want to know the number one reason why you're going to have problems in a prison, I've been saying this, the numbers show this. You go back and study it. I'm not over exaggerating. When you have a shortage of officers, all the other problems come in behind that. When you have a shortage of officers' attitudes begin to change because they're wore out. They're tired. They're tired of being there all the time. Their attitudes start to change. Guess what? More games start going on the yard, more illegal, more drugs. And guess what? When you get more drugs, we get more attitude. More attitude with people who are already stressed out. Guess what? It escalates. Now you have violence. You will see violence against inmate violence. We're talking about rapes. We're talking about beatdowns. We're talking about stabbings. We're talking about murders. We're talking about extortion. Those are the kind of things that you're going to see go up. Guys, we have seen that for the last 3 years. We have seen, it is if you had told me it could stay at this level, it's going to go up to here and it's going to stay at that level. Well, guess what? That's insane. Now, when you're having to deal with that, guess what? The level comes up here. And that's where we're at. And it has stayed on that level. And what you're seeing is, in my opinion, the inmates are running the prisons because the staff doesn't have enough people to run it. So they've got to depend on them. And that's why you're seeing all the chaos, all the craziness, everything going on. Now, here's what's funny. You just saw that the governor has a bad track record when it comes to picking directors of any agency. So if you look, DHS has went through about 3 directors. If you look, tourism has had problems. They're on their 3rd director in his, since the governor has been governor. He's already appointed 3 of those, I know. Okay, and 2 of them had to be one left. She had a little issue. She had it before she came in. Really like her, Shelley Zumwalt. I like Shelley Zumwalt. She's a really nice lady. Winchester, I'm mixed with feelings. Winchester lied to me, so I ain't got much use for him. But, Winchester got caught on all that swaddling and immediately quit, which generally says all you need to know. Shelley had a problem coming in, fought that problem, still denies that problem, but it cost her a job. It was a pretty big scandal. And then now you got a guy who seems pretty good. I don't think they're going to find a whole lot on him. He's been around government for a while. I like him, Zerlin. So I like him. But if you looked at mental health, guess what? We go through all these people, mental health. He goes over. He just picked somebody else and sounds like a decent person. But again, this governor, I'm going to get somebody who knows business. But what they don't know is mental health. They don't have a clue. And so he keeps getting these so-called great business people. If Stephen Harp is an example of his ideal of a good business person, damn, boy, I tell you what, that's pretty piss poor to me because I ain't seen Stephen Harp do too much that's impressed me on any kind of business deals. If you want to see the department run down, worst shape it ever has been, and some piss poor moods financially, broke right now, my understanding is they are broke. And again, why are we putting people in who have zero experience, zero training, zero knowledge, or they're great business people? Well, it ain't looking. In fact, most of them are pretty great about taking money and sticking it in their pocket. If that's what that's kind of what it's looking like. And so again, he just had his mental health person that the legislators had to come in and vote to get rid of her. I mean, they had, he wouldn't fire her with all this money missing, millions of money, couldn't make her payroll, and he would not fire her. And she has nothing. Where's the money going? It ain't going to beds. It ain't going to the actual job. So where the hell is the money? And guess what? You hide and watch. They don't want to put anybody who could actually, which it wouldn't be that hard to track down. Can I get a witness? $90 million leaves a pretty good trail. You know what I'm saying? That ought to be pretty easy to track. So again, they're over there already 2-3 months down and don't know diddly. And so again, that ought to tell you right there the problem. But anyways, they fire. Well, while they're talking about firing her, they start talking about firing Harp. My understanding in the Senate, they were talking about putting Harp on that and firing him as well. Now, all I can say is, guys, y'all should have got it done. You should have put him on there. He's the worst director in the whole state. You should have put him on there. And again, they did not put him on there. They talked about it. Should have done more talk, in my opinion, but they didn't. And now I'm hearing rumors. Now it's just a rumor. So I'm hearing rumors that they're talking about doing a resolution about fire, about that he ought to leave, that he ought to step down. Woo! I made that coffee. I'd have raised the dead, boy, right there. I mean, I made that strong. But here's the thing. They certainly should do it. Now, I don't want y'all to get excited because, again, a resolution is just saying we think, we're announcing, we're declaring that he's just a terrible director. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean he'd be fired. The governor would be the one having to fire them. If the legislator wanted to fire him while session is out, they would have to call a special session together just to fire him. It's highly unlikely that they would do that, but I still support a resolution. I support coming out and letting the public know how terrible, what a terrible, terrible director this guy's been. And again, people, he tries to make it out this is personal with me and him. It's not personal. This is not based on my personal. I will personally tell you I don't like him. I know he doesn't like me. I know, director, you hate my guts. That's okay. I don't hate your guts. I don't hate you. I don't wish you to hell. I don't wish you anything negatively, except just to be fired because you're terrible, because you have been an evil person. The way you treat people are evil, okay? And what you allow to be done to people is evil. And how you make out like you're somebody so grand and you're so egotistical that it's just pukish to me. I mean, that's where you are. You it's like puke to me. And so again, the reason I say that, we can go get how many people have died, how above national average, and for them to come out and try to convince the public, we've dropped it 14%. Well, where are your numbers that would show you dropped it 14%? How did you come to this conclusion? Why don't you call the medical examiner? Their numbers certainly does not line up with your numbers. So why are you going out telling lies like that? And why are you going out and saying you have an 80% retention in employees when you know that's a lie? You can go look at your own numbers. They've dropped. You're forcing officers to work massive, time, overtime. What's going on? Or at least that's the reports. I would say, yes, it is. I have to come back all the time and say, at least that's the reports coming to me, because you are violating the law, director. You break the law and violate the open records. And that's why I sued you. And that's why we're going to call you out on it and force you to start opening those records back up where the public can see those records and know, and you're going to be held accountable for the mothers and the fathers who've lost their kids. You're going to be responsible for the kids that were raped and the extortions, all of these things that blood is on your hands, director, and it is on your hands. And I don't care what you do, how good a job you do, there's always going to be one or two, but there should be one or two. It should be 1.4 per thousand. And you know what, director? I can tell you, I think when we were working, our numbers would have been better than that. When I was working, that number would have been unacceptable to us. I can tell you, if we'd had 14, 15 people die when we were there, when I was there, I would have found that to be massively alarming. You know what I'm saying? And there was times we had upwards 20, 28, 25,000 in the prison at the time that I was working. We had a lot of numbers up there. It started at 19 when I first come in, and we got way up there on the upper end of 20. And so again, I don't ever remember hearing the kind of numbers that we're talking about now of people dying. I don't ever remember hearing the shortage of staff. Now, we had a shortage of staff, and I had to come in and, out of probation, parole, and often work. It wasn't uncommon for me. I had to go work 2 or 3 weeks in the prison to help them out, to substitute and add extra hand. But guess what? That was due to the overwhelming inmate population. We just had grown. We didn't have places to put them. I remember we were using McAllister down there on the Rock. And so again, that's what I remember quite a few times that I had to go in there and work at the Rock there, there at OSP. And so, which I have no problem. I was always very glad to tried to help out and to help the institutions. If we needed anything, they would help us because we were family back then. I mean, honestly, I knew people all over the state, could call people all over the state. And I'm telling you, if they called you, you'd break your neck to help them. Same thing. To this day, I have a lot of people that all over the state that have worked for the prison that to this day, if they call me, man, I'm going to try to help them no matter what, because we're family. I mean, that's the way. I still got a group that we meet with down here in Bowler, Oklahoma, which is just a little ways from me. We use their community building, and that Howard McLeod that I worked at when I first started, I still go down there with a group of about 30 or 40 people who work down there, and we have a yearly reunion that we all get together and just have great food and just have a good time, just visit each other and catch up. Some of these people, I can't tell you how much I love and respect those people that kind of, I come in, I think I was about 22 when I went to work in there, 22, 23 years old. And I know I did an intern when I started. I was 22, and I interned with them for about 6 months, then went to work for them for about a year and a half. And so I was there about 2 years. In that 2-year period of time, man, I just built a relationship with these people. Now, I still work for the Department of Corrections for more than 20 years. And so again, hey, I can't tell you how much I love the people of DOC. And that's why I joined OCP. That's why I am part of OCP. I still care about the employees. I still care about the department. I love the department, and it just sickens me to see it destroyed by such a terrible, terrible director. And that's why I call you out all the time, Director, because I love this department, and what you're doing is totally inexcusable. I hope you're held accountable at some time. Guys, something else I want to talk about. We talked about shortage of staff. We talked about that, hey, it's illegal to work that many hours back to back. If you want to try to call us and see what we can do, we'll work on that. We talked about that Bob passed that bill. We talked about all the assaults that we've had. And again, you need to call us. We need to keep track of those. We don't just need, hey, we think it happened. We're hearing it happened over here. We're hearing this happen. We hear that officers get really harmed. I had 3 at Dick Connors just recently that I was told were attacked, and pretty aggressively, pretty severely. And so I'd like to know, is that, how severely? Because I just hear, well, they got assaulted. Well, assaulted, did they get stabbed? Did they get beaten? How bad was the beating? What were the circumstances? I would like to know. We talked about all of these deaths. Something else going on at Allen Gamble that I don't understand. You got a lot of inmate families giving calls and hollering at me about Allen Gamble seems to be the only prison they're doing this, but apparently they're making weapons out of their old lockers. And so now they're taking away their lockers, and they're telling the families, you had to purchase a certain kind of tote and a lock and ship it in here. Now, before we didn't want anything at all shipped in here. Now, you ship this in here. And again, it's about $100. So why are inmates at Allen Gamble having to spend $100 that no other inmates across the state are having to spend? And why is the department not getting these, if you got lockers that are weapons, then fix them where you can't use them as weapons. Get more lockers. But I suspect what the problem is. I suspect the department is broke. They're broke. And I suspect that's why what I want to talk about next is going on. And so what I want to talk about, why are we getting out of prisons, private prisons? So we're on big move to make sure that we get out of these private prisons. But then we turned right around and we privatized all the services. Now, tell me the logic, explain the logic on that one. And I can tell you that private, they've got to make a profit. If they're not making a profit, then what are you in business for? I don't want to be in a business that I lose money, okay? Now, I've been in a couple of those. I don't want to, my cattle business, I got a deal buy high, sell low, you know what I mean? Although I did pretty well on cattle this year. I shouldn't say that. I hit a home run this year. But here's the thing. You don't want to be in a business where you're losing money. So if they're going to be a private business, they're going to make money. Now, how do you make money on the cafeteria, on kitchen? Well, there's some ways. There's 3 ways that I can think of. One, you cut down on the quality of food. That means you just serve worse food. You serve food that's not really that great. Cheap food. Okay. You cut down on the quantity. All right. So you just don't serve as much. You cut down on quality and quantity. And then you cut down on the people who are serving. You cut down on employees. Okay. So you cut your employee costs, you cut your quantity, and you cut your quality. And that's how you make a profit in private kitchen business. Okay. Now you're supposed to have a person that's over this nutritional. So you're supposed to serve certain nutritional. Now we've seen some of the stuff coming out in the last few years. So we know whoever's doing that is taking a break. Now they had a really good person. And what is funny, I can go back and show you testimony. The person they had, they ran off. She was awesome. Ran her off and then wanted her, hey, would you sign 6 months worth of these things so we keep on serving until we can find a nutritionist? So again, they're asking her to violate the law. She didn't do it. But look at them. They're asking her to violate the law. Then if it comes back, guess who it comes back on? Her. She gets a felony for falsifying records. Guess what? They're doing that. If I wanted to go after, Director, if I want to go after you, if I just had a little time, I could really, really get you. So here's the deal. They're having all their maintenance stuff. I watched the deal the other day. They were putting out on what's that report that they do monthly or quarterly, all their prison stuff and their prison board. They go a board meeting and they were talking about what all they did at the women's institution and how they did all this on the gas line. Director, you know you weren't going to do anything until we got on here and called you out. You'd already told them girls they're going to be taking cold showers for a month. You'd already told that. They'd already announced it. That's why everybody's calling me. And guess what? We call you out and then you run down there. Oh, look what a great job we did. Guess what? I bet you $1,000 if we'd go back and look at that, I'd be shocked if you had someone doing all the work that you didn't have people signing off that wasn't even there. I'd be shocked. But you're doing it all over the place. I know that for a fact. I know that you have your maintenance people, your carpentry people, your plumbing people, your electrician people forging work orders. I know you do. And again, it's illegal. And if you guys are watching and you're the person they're having sign that, don't do it. What they're doing is having you break the law so that if it happens, you think they're going to step up and go, that's our fault. We had him do that. We told him to do it. He was just following our orders. Now, one, if I order you to go rob a bank for me, you're not going to do it. And guess what? If you do, if you're that easily manipulated, the courts are not going to go, oh, well, Humphrey ordered you to rob that bank. We'll just charge Humphrey. No, I'm going to be sitting back going, I didn't go rob no bank. They might get me on conspiracy, but you know what? I'm going to go, I didn't think he'd really rob that bank. I told him go do it, but I didn't think he'd do it. I didn't want it to, that's what's going to happen. We didn't tell him to sign all them. Yeah, we put them in front of him, but that was the orders. We thought he had seen all those. Yeah, that's what they're going to do. They're going to throw you under the bus, and guess what? They'll run over you. They'll back up and run over you, but they're not going to do it on them. And that's what's going on. And the director's sitting out there telling the board, "Oh, look what we did." What a lie. You weren't going to do it until you were called out on it, and then you went and done it. And look at all the stuff that's going on. And so again, you can't even get the work done. These private deals, you're privatizing. I don't know if you intend to privatize the maintenance or privatize all that, but you're privatizing the kitchen. I understand you're trying to privatize the canteen, which is pretty rich when you look at all that. Guys, here's what's going to happen, and it's already happening. I'm told they're going to fire a whole lot of people. Now, they're going to tell you it's not firing. We're not firing anybody. We're going to downsize that, and we're going to look for another place to put you. Here's the problem. If you're not qualified, you could go into the correctional officer, but what if you can't pass the physical? What if you can't do, the school? You can't, a lot of people working in the kitchen are not young people, and they may not be able to do an officer's job, or to go through a new officer training or something like that. They may not have the degrees it takes or the qualifications it takes to be a case manager or hold some of these other maintenance positions. So again, we're going to keep all of you we can, but we're going to kick the rest of you to the curb. Now, are they giving you severance pay? Or what are they doing? That's going to be pretty interesting. We want to know, because my experience, what the director does, he treats his employees like trash. You've had whistleblowers come forward. Did he thank them for their service and for trying to inform and tell the truth? No, he fired them. You have wardens that were doing a great job. I'll just call out Luke Pettigrew. He's awesome. Guess what? They fired him. He's went to court 3 times. To my knowledge, DOC has never publicly stated why they fired him. So you're going to fire one of your top wardens, somebody you were interviewing just a few weeks before that, a month before that, for one of the top jobs. So he's being considered for one of the top jobs, and 3 or 4 weeks later, you fire him, and it's not even known why you're firing him. And I figure I know why. I figure it's because he hurt the director's ego. I figure that was one of them ego firings. You know what I'm saying? I think I know what he hurt your ego on, director. Over some gene stuff, I think. But anyways, dress code. I think it may or may not be. Bottom line is, he fires a lot of people unjustifiably. He fired the doctor, I believe, unjustifiably, and brought over somebody unqualified. And again, his great buddy. He fired the communications director. Man, who even knew on that? And guess what? He fired their assistant. Didn't fire them. They just run them off. They found another job before he had an opportunity to fire them. Brought over somebody totally unqualified, somebody who doesn't know anything about who Humphrey has no institutional knowledge like this person's ever even would have a clue of what they're talking about. It's just astronomical. And again, they love to just flower it up, downsizing. It's not downsizing, it's termination. It's firing people. And if you want to downsize, this is privatization. This ain't downsizing. You're keeping the kitchen. You're not downsizing. You're supposedly privatizing. You're kicking these people out and putting somebody else in. That ain't downsizing, you peckerheads. It's swapping. That's swapping, okay? That's kicking your people out and bringing somebody who's going to do it cheaper, not as good, and cut the cost. That's what you got. You're going to get poor quality. It don't take a whole lot of sense to know that, okay? So if you're some, super business person, guess what? That's business. This is why. Let me give you an example why when business collides with the state sometimes, that you have to have enough sense to know sometimes what seems like a good business practice ain't a good business practice. If you want to start a riot, one of the best places to start a riot is in a kitchen. And what will happen when you start cutting down on the quality and the quantity of food, then those inmates who are already sitting on a pretty tight bubble, I mean, they're on a hair trigger, you know what I mean? So you got them on a hair trigger, and guess what? Now you're going to cut down on the quality and quantity of their food, and all right, that's what I'm predicting they have to do to make a profit. Something's up. And then when you do that, guess what? That's when the inmates are going to get really, really upset. And that's when you're going to see real stress levels get up there. That's when you see bad juju start to happen. So again, you're not downsizing. Let's stop that nonsense. You're swapping. You're getting rid of your employees, putting them out on the curb like yesterday's trash because you don't care about them. And you're bringing in some of your good buddies that you probably have a good contract with that, you know what I'm saying? I'd like to go downstream of that and see who's getting well heeled and what's all going on with all these contracts, just like we saw on your Swadley's barbecue, just like we saw on the COVID matters. Guess what? I would be suspect on every contract. If I was the investigator over stuff, I would be looking deeply into these contracts that seem to make no sense. And so, anyways, you're going to bring in your good buddies, some more of this cronyism, more of this contract stuff, and you're going to lessen services, and you're going to kick your own people out. Now, if you want to talk about downsizing, Director, what you ought to look at is how many correctional officers you have to how many administrative people you got. We called you out on that numerous times. And guess what? You brought in administrative that know absolutely nothing. And I guess that's to make you look good because for them to know less than you, it would mean they had to know less than nothing, okay? And so, again, that's who you bring in is people who know less than you, which is less than nothing. And so that's what we've got going on up there, and it's a disaster. And you got a overweight administration who know absolutely nothing, and then you're getting rid of all these people who actually know about food, who actually know about prison food, who actually know about prisoners, and you're bringing in this group who know absolutely nothing about that stuff, or maybe they do have some other prison contracts. I don't know. Maybe they do know a little bit about that. But again, they got to make a profit, and you got to ask yourself, how do you make a profit in that business? And again, the ways I've said is what's going to happen. So we're getting rid of private prisons because that's terrible. Enough is enough. We got to get rid of that. But we're going to privatize all the parts of the prison. So tell me what you're smoking. Send me some of what you're smoking. I really would like to take a puff so I can get with the program because you're out of your mind. This stuff is just beyond believable that you can set up, I got to get out of this. Not tell the legislators, not give a plan how you'll buy a prison, not give any kind of clue. Keep your mouth shut, force them to buy a prison. Me telling them what's going to happen. Bam, it happens. You do exactly what I say. Now you're off to the other one, as I've predicted, and you'll do it the same way if you're around. I'm going to predict you ain't, and I'm pretty good. Director, if you notice, when I make predictions, pretty good. Call me JJ the Prophet. I'm going to bet you ain't going to be around. I'm going to say, I really didn't suspect you'd make it out of this year's legislative session, and they were talking about getting rid of you. You were on the floor being discussed getting rid of you. That tells you they're aware of how sorry you are, what a terrible job you're doing. They're talking about a resolution. Come out with that. Again, put the pressure on the governor to get rid of your terrible, terrible self. I won't cuss, trying not to cuss. Guys, I hope they do that resolution. If you want to get hold to me and we see, can they fire you without a severance pay? Is this downsizing? If it is, I think there's certain things they've got to give you. I don't know about longevity checks. I don't know about severance. I haven't looked into that yet. I will start trying to call. We want to help you if we can. We will make sure you're treated right. If they're going to get rid of you like that, and again, it's pretty sorry, but that's just the way he is. End of the day, I want to tell you guys, I announced last week that we had filed a lawsuit. I personally have filed a lawsuit against the director, against the Department of Corrections. I also filed one against the House of Representatives. I didn't name a whole bunch of people in this. Could have named a lot of people. Really wanted to leave a person out on this lawsuit. I really wished I could have left one person out. The reason I couldn't, because they happened to be in a couple of meetings that were pretty key that they were in, and or we believe, I know they were in a couple, but I believe they was in maybe a couple of more, and so we had to include. I would have personally, I liked the person, I liked the person's family, and would have liked to have left all of that out, but couldn't. That wasn't totally my choice. Couldn't do that. So again, here's what we've got. We're suing because of open records. It's not just the fact that they've stopped me from getting records, redacting stuff, won't give stuff, refuse, but they said they made an agreement with House leadership, again, violating the law and making an agreement to violate the law is conspiracy to violate the law. The law is open records. They made an agreement to violate open records, but I say their agreement went way beyond just the open records. They've stopped us from getting subpoenas. The House stopped us. I think that's by agreement. They stopped us trying to keep us from investigating things. I think that's by agreement. I think that, they stopped legislation. I believe that was by agreement. I think that they shut down the committee that I was on and chairman of and wiped out that chairman. I believe that was by agreement. Again, it looks like the House was doing everything they could to stop me from getting into the Department of Corrections records and actually proving what is going on, actually proving that they're covering up deaths, covering up rapes, that they're lying about their, staffing levels, as we've caught them before, lying about staffing levels. That's how we got your $43 million raise, lying about staffing levels. And again, lying about all of these other things going on in the Department of Corrections. Guys, when I tell you that OCP and me are working to verify, and it's going to come out, not only that, but Harp intentionally went after Bobby, intentionally went after OCP, called it a union, has tried to shut it down, has went out and told people not to join, has went out and conspired to get the president over there and get him to try to kill it. He admitted that out openly to me. And again, it's all been done. And he is trying right now to keep us from getting seeing our roster, who is actually in OCP. They won't report that. Again, that's an open records issue that he is trying to do in an effort to make sure that he destroys OCP and destroys me. And Director, that's why you're so sorry. that's why, who would ever dream that I would have to file a lawsuit on this? I certainly did not. But again, you're so sorry in keeping all of these public records and just cheating and lying that I had to do it. And again, I get nothing. I expect there will be very little. I did file for defamation and slander. And again, if I get that, that's great, because you honestly have slandered me. You've got to, guys, if y'all would let me know, I know he forced you on an on-call to watch, to talk about me, and that I've never promoted. 100% lie. I have the records to prove that. That he talked about me being a terrible employee and that I was disciplined all the time. Guess what? According to them, your discipline only goes back 2 years. Well, I've been gone for 15. How would you have my discipline then? And when I requested that by Open Records, they said they ain't got it. So how would he, who hasn't known me for a period of probably 4 to 5 years at the most, never knew me as an employee, how would he come out and say I was disciplined? He wouldn't know that. How would he come out and say I didn't promote? That is a square apply. And what is he even doing talking openly about my private employment? Would you want him talking about your private employment? That's supposed to be, he is responsible for keeping those records private, but he went out and openly lied. So if you know he did that, if you were one of the people that he forced to watch that, please let me know. I would like to have more. I've got enough evidence, I think, that we can get that done. But I would like to have 30 people march in there and go, absolutely, he did that. Absolutely. And why should you not? Why should you not at least write me and acknowledge absolutely he did it? Again, guys, this is how you get him going. If you want to see, somebody sent me a clip the other day, and it's a Bug's World or something. And this one bug is talking about that this one ant come up, and they were saying, the other bugs were saying, who cares? Who cares what goes on with one ant? And this top bug was saying, let me tell y'all why. Because when one ant it can do it, all the rest of them will decide. And once all of them stand up to us, we're done. Okay? Guys, that's a funny little cartoon, but it speaks a volume of truth. When you let him single you out one at a time, he wins. If all y'all will stand together and say enough, 30 people come together and say, yes, he absolutely did that, he can't fire all 30. He can't fire all 30 of you. If he fires all 30 of you for that, guess what? We'll have a lovely, lovely lawsuit personally against you. I will help you get it. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. It is time y'all band together. Time you join OCP. Let's band together. Let's stand up to the tyrant and let's tell him to kick rocks down the road. I'm here to help you. I'm filing the lawsuit myself. I've lost my chairmanship. I've lost my committee. Don't think I'm not invested. I'm invested. But guess what? I'm going right straight forward. File the lawsuit, standing on my own, standing up against the House. Guess what? I'm calling them out for it. Now, you know, my political career may be over. Who knows? Maybe this makes my political career. I don't know. Typically, this is a career breaker, you know, and again, where he doesn't understand, I'm standing up for right. And guess what? I'll never go wrong standing for right and calling out truth. I'll never go wrong. If I go home standing for right, calling out truth, then I'll go home happily, go home with my head up, and I'll go find something else to do. And so can all of us, all of you, and we can come back after somebody better comes to the Department of Corrections. We can all go back to work and make it a place that we all want it to be, and make it a place that is in the top 10 and not in the bottom where he's driven it. So you guys, I appreciate every one of you. You have a great, blessed day. We're fighting for you. OCP is fighting for you. And I want you to know we want you to be a part of us. I'm encouraging you, join OCP. Y'all have a blessed day.